Hello everyone, my name is Rick van Bruggen from Neo, and here we are again, recording another Graphistania podcast episode. And today I have one of my lovely colleagues from the engineering team with me, Stefan Plantikow from Berlin. Hi Stefan.
Hi Rick, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you for joining me. And I'm hoping you'll take good care of my missus, my wife, who is visiting Berlin today.
I'm sure they'll have a splendid time.
I think so too, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Stefan, Neo, I invited you because you're one of our Neo's engineers and you've been doing some really cool stuff, but maybe you can introduce yourself to our audience here.
Yeah, so my name is Stefan Plantikow. I've been working with Neo for almost 4 years now, I think. And I've been pretty much about all over the place, right? I've been working on the kernel, a bit on the indexing side. I've spent a lot of time on Cypher, and recently I've been working on the new driver Surface, right? Still, I think my focus at Neo is around Cypher, the language, right? I'm currently working on the Open Cypher TCK, which is a way to help people certify other implementations of Cypher of being conformant with Cypher as we have it today in Neo4j.
Oh wow! So a couple of things that you mentioned there: the driver surface. That means the new Bolt protocol, and the way we drivers interact with the Neo4j, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And the TCK, that's part of the Open Cypher initiative, right?
Yes, that's the future for Cypher, I think.
Well, I'm surprised that you haven't mentioned your wonderful work on APOCs.
Right. So yes, that actually happened.
You know where this is going, right, Stefan?
I know where this is going. So
tell us that story, please.
So I can tell you that story.
Yeah.
So I think as part of the drivers initiative, right? Or let's maybe pedal back a little bit. So drivers and the Bolt protocol is a new way to interface with Neo4j, right? So it gives you a new super efficient binary protocol for talking to the graph database, and perhaps more importantly, it gives you a unified API. So whatever language you use, you have a very standard way of talking to the graph database, a really nice API, and you also have the same capabilities everywhere. So it doesn't matter if you're a Python developer or a Java developer, right? You can always use Neo4j and get the same things.
Mm-hmm.
So now long-term users of Neo4j are surely aware of a feature we have that's called unmanaged extensions, right? Which allows you to plug your own code into the database.
Absolutely.
And those have been exposed via our REST API. So what happened is, of course, that people ask the question now, well, in the world of Bolt, how am I going to do that, right? And because Bolt is purely Cypher driven, so everything you do there, you do via Cypher. So we needed a way for exposing interesting functionality or extensions via Cypher, right? And the way we came up with eventually were procedures, and that happened as part of the Bolt project.
Mm-hmm.
So procedure is a way to call kind of a piece of user code, right, as part of your Cypher query, right? You can just match around in your graph, find stuff, and then hand it all off to your custom procedure, have it execute some custom business logic, have it talk to some third-party system, whatever it is, execute some graph analytics algorithm perhaps even, right? And then return you a stream of results, right? And then continue with that even in Cypher, right? And this has been very, very well received, right? It's kind of interesting here, the story, because we did it initially to kind of cover the ground, to be sure that you can do the same things in Bolt that you could do before in REST API. But it turned into this beautiful thing where people jumped onto it, and my colleague Michael Hunger created a repository called APOC of public procedure that you can just hook into your database, and people have been adding and contributing and committing to that at a really fast pace.
This has really been like the nugget of gold of the 3.0 release. I think it's been really well received, right?
Yeah, and that was really amazing because that was, I mean, it felt like a thing that would have been missing from the product if we hadn't done it. But still, I think at least I didn't anticipate it to be so well received. Right? It was like super well received,
especially also because it was something that started as a weekend project for you. Is that what I understood?
Yeah, a little bit like that. So what was initially planned was to be able to call procedures just like that. And then I wasn't really happy with that because it wouldn't allow you to combine procedures with other parts in your cipher query. So that would not have been part of 3.0 initially, right? And then I sat down and spent a couple of weekends and said, I need to make this happen, right? It just didn't feel complete to be able to combine procedure calls with other parts of the cipher query, right? And that's where it gains its versatility now, right?
Yeah.
Take, for example, you have a way of importing data from other systems now via APOC, right? You can just call into a JDBC driver and pull out data out of some legacy relational store, right? And that's already nice, but what would you do after, right? But now you can directly feed that into a cipher query, then you can create nodes, create relationships, right? And suddenly it has a much, much higher utility than if you would just have been able to just call the procedure, right?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think this is one of those examples where I love the way how our ecosystem, whether it's engineers like you or people around us that basically provide this amazing innovation when we haven't always planned for it, right? It's not like we're planning for these types of features to be built like cathedrals. It's more like a bazaar that evolves the way it wants to evolve almost. It's super interesting, actually, the open source way of doing things.
Yeah, I mean that's also part of the fun of working at Neo, right? That on the one hand, of course, there's a stellar team that plans releases and drive things forward and all that. But then there's also the whole organic side, where someone can jump in and just they feel strongly about something and they sneak it into the release and everything gets better from that, right? And it's really nice to strike a middle ground between these two sides of it, right?
So question that I've been asking everyone on this podcast a little bit is, how did you get into the wonderful world of Neo and graph databases, and why do you think it's such a cool place to be? Any perspectives on that, Stefan?
My story is a bit. I was in Berlin in academia before I joined Neo, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And I was part of a research group on distributed systems. And of course, if you're in distributed systems, your data storage is a big topic there, of course, right?
Of course.
It's one of the classic applications of distributed systems. And this was around the time the NoSQL movement came around, right? And I was kind of aware of all that. I knew the guys from CouchDB, some of whom are local in Berlin, for example, right? Okay. And this was all interesting, but it wasn't really. I was missing the quality of something new there, right? I mean, it's just the same old stores that we've been had, just in a distributed fashion or in a slightly more streamlined fashion in comparison to the old databases, right? And then I bumped into this guy, Peter Neubauer, who probably has been mentioned on this podcast once or twice.
We interviewed him as well, yeah.
And he introduced me to the shiny world of graphs, and I was all amazed, right, at Berlin buzzwords. And it even influenced my academic research. I looked a little bit into partitioning of distributed graphs back then.
Okay.
And it rang a bell with me, actually, right? I'm a long time fan of a method called mind mapping. You might know about that.
I use it all the time.
You use it all the time, right? It's if you don't know it, it's a splendid way of making notes and it's a thinking tool, really. It's a thought tool. So I've been using that since school, basically. And what I've always liked about that is it has such an intuitive appeal, right? It's very you can look at the mind map and you can kind of follow the process, and it's very human friendly, right? And that's something I really love about graphs, that they're so amazingly human friendly, right? Yeah. Opposed to many other ways in which you could store information in the computer, right? Which require to have a PhD or, I don't know, at least some long education to kind of really get to the bottom of it. And this is something you can go to a whiteboard, you can walk, you can talk about it. You can talk about it with completely non-technical people, which I think is very important in today's organizations, right?
Well, I can tell you that for me as a commercial person, right? It's so valuable that human friendly nature. The fact that I can have a conversation with both the developer and the manager of the developer and the manager of the manager of the developer, and people will understand. People will understand what we're talking about, and they will understand why graphs are so powerful, and that's pretty amazing, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, we could talk for hours, you know that, right? But we want to keep this fairly short, so I'm going to ask you one more question that I have been asking everyone as well. Is what do you see in the future? What do you see in the future for Neo4j, for the industry, for Apox? What's your
Yeah, let's
idea?
go. Let's go from the small to the large then, perhaps, right? And start with APOC. I think we'll see more use of them for sure. We are also going to see, I think, more flavors of procedures in other contexts, perhaps as functions or something like that, right? So there's more opportunities for us to do things similar to the procedures we just added for 3.0 to even reap more benefits from them, and more importantly, give more value, right? And make using Cypher even more versatile for people. Yeah. So more importantly, procedures from what I'm currently doing, because my head is very much in Open Cypher these days, is it gives us an interesting trajectory for trying out features without having to add things to Cypher the language, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Because even though, of course, all the dynamism in Neo's culture and the quick velocity with which we can change things in Cypher, it is still a process to change the actual language, right? And adding a procedure is a much quicker process. So here we can kind of innovate, try out things, also look at the procedures that are written, by customers in the market, and then learn from that and make Cypher the language better. So I'm looking forward a lot to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then looking into the wider time horizon, perhaps, right? Also a bit with Open Cypher as the context. I think what we're going to see is just graphs. Really, the promise of graphs are everywhere, which is actually not a promise; it's a truth, right? But having that truth being delivered by being graph structured data being the default mode of data organization in the industry, right? I think that's something I want to see come about. And I think having a standard query language like Open Cypher is going to help, going to be tremendously helpful to the whole market to achieve that.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm going to wrap up our conversation. And if people want to know more about this and your work and all of that stuff, we'll include some links with the transcription of the podcast. So I want to thank you so much for doing this conversation, Stefan. It's been great talking to you as always, and I look forward to doing that again.
Thanks, Rick. This has been fun.
Yeah, cheers, man.
Have a great time, everybody.
Bye.